Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
All right. If you are, I'm going to say in your mid 40s to mid 50s ish, in that range, we're going to talk about something that connects to you, potentially you or somebody you know. And it's always viewed as a negative. These two words, when I'm going to say them, I won't say anything after that. And what comes up in your mind? Midlife. Midlife. Usually it's followed by the word crisis. But we're going to dig into that. And she is somebody that helps a lot of people through lifestyle changes and just life in general, helps you navigate that. She's a holistic health and wellness coach, and her name is Lynne Wadsworth, and she's on the program now. Lynne, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, Steve. How are things your end?
Doing well, and I can tell you, good or bad, I don't think I've ever suffered from a midlife situation. But do I have that age range about right?
Yes, actually, it can go mid 40s to 60s. I think after you reach 60 and what they consider as postmenopausal, it still carries on. I know people in their 70s and 80s who still have hot flashes. So it becomes a style of life, I guess you could call it. And I think some people go through the crisis. I think for men, we call it a midlife crisis. For women, we just call it perimenopause or menopause.
Let's look at both sides. Let's start with women. When it's a midlife situation, how do you identify it? Yeah, of course, menopause is going to kick in at a certain point. But how is that defined? And do we call it a crisis, or we're just going through a midlife
No,
change?
it's just really a lifestyle. I mean, if you think back to years ago, mothers never talked to their daughters about menopause. Certainly my mother didn't. And the people that I've interviewed on my podcasts have been very much the same. There's very limited information, but that's beginning to change. So for women, they just think menopause. And so they'll go into a doctor and say, oh, I think I'm in menopause. Do you think that you could do some blood work for me? Well, it absolutely doesn't tell if you're in this situation. The misconception here is women go into what we call perimenopause, and that is that whole section where you have the hot flashes, you have the lack of energy, no motivation, the belly fat that begins to appear around the middle, all of those things, that the symptoms, lack of sleep, trouble sleeping, that's all perimenopause. So menopause is actually considered 12 to 18 months after a woman has her last period. So that kind of puts a different slant on it. Because you go in asking a doctor, am I in menopause? And really technically no. And then for a woman, it's really hard to pin it down depending on what time of month it is, because your hormone levels change. So you really kind of have to go by symptoms. How are you feeling? How are your moods? How is your, because visceral fat is what we're not wanting as men and women at this age, because that's what causes heart attacks and problems with our health. So it's really being in tune with your body, because you can't say, oh, I've gained 10 pounds, so I'm going to go on a diet just like I've done in the past. It doesn't work that way. When we get into midlife, what worked in our 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s just doesn't work during this stage of life. And so we have some rethinking and some mindset changes and shifts to make. And from my perspective, because yes, it can be viewed as a negative, I think about it like this. Years ago, men and women would go into midlife and it would be almost like your life was over. That's why it became a negative thing. Nowadays, people are living into their 80s, 90s, late 90s. And so when you get to that age 40, instead of viewing it as, oh my gosh, this is the end of things for me, it's really the beginning, because it's a time when you can really enjoy life to the fullest. You can make changes in your life. You can make your lifestyle what you want it to be, and you can deal with the symptoms that are going on to help you through.
It's funny you should say that, Lynn, because uh, it resonates so well in terms of what worked then doesn't work now. I remember when I was in my 20s, I'd eat a bowl of cereal in the morning, jog all day, like for a week and a half, drop a lot of weight. We're good to go. Summer's here. Let's go. And now, completely different.
Yeah.
I was in the best shape in decades a year ago, and then things happen, lifestyle changes, hang with different people, going to dinner a lot, and gain 15 pounds. Not the worst thing, but I know it's going to take time. It's going to take a
Yes.
while. It was a lot of work when I lost that previously. I know it's
Yes.
coming. What about what we're centering on women at this moment? I I have a friend, really good friend, since divorced, but his wife, and she this started when she was like 46, 47, just completely changed. Like she started wearing different clothes, just the kind of provocative t-shirts, at the gym, um, and just went through changes. Now, I don't know if that was menopause. And some people have often said to me that when a woman is premenopausal, things change, and sometimes this changes, and that sets it off, and it can be very impactful. Have you heard that? Does it make any sense?
Yeah, so what makes sense to me is, as women, when we get into that perimenopausal change and our bodies are changing and we feel different, added to the fact that many women at that point are losing their kids from the home, they're going out of the home, and you've got the whole empty nest thing. It's all down to a woman's confidence. So we try to make up for it in different ways or go a little bit crazy. I have to say, my sister is a lot older than me, and I talk to her every month. She lives in Scotland, and she's always got a different color. She's got purple on her hair at the moment. And I'm like, there is no way. But I see this a lot with people in midlife. They'll maybe make drastic changes with their hair, the way they look, because they're trying to build their confidence again. They get to a point where their self-confidence has gone because things have changed. Their mental outlook changes. They begin to think, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. So that's why I say, to me, life can really begin in our 40s, mid 40s, even early 50s, because if we've got the right mindset and we can build our confidence again and really be at peace with who we are, then it can make such a difference. So it totally is a common thing for women to really go kind of wacky. They're just trying to find out who they are all over again.
It's now you talk about the confidence. That's a direct correlation to trying to feel younger.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and in my friend's situation, um, she went on, she started cheating, different guys here and there, just going out partying, drinking, and what did she probably do when she was younger, like in her 20s? Probably the same thing.
Right,
So
right.
is it a and just one more thought on that. Is there something chemically, because my friend's convinced, something chemically that goes on because he's seen it with other women about 45 where they just, something happens. It's like a 180.
There is, and there's research to back that up, and you can kind of, I'm limited as to what I can say as a health coach. But yeah, there are changes in the brain. Well, for one thing, one of the big things that women experience is brain fog, this fogginess, and your thinking kind of changes because you have no clarity of thought. So that could be chemicals in the brain. But the same thing happens if you are addicted to sugar. The whole brain system changes, just like it does with a drug addict.
Mm,
So it's not out of the realm of possibility that there are chemical changes in the brain as well.
wow. Okay. Guess he was a little right. about a situation there. Yeah. And again, they're since divorced, and that was the tipping point. Actually, when
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
started going on, she just went in this crazy, call it crazy direction. I don't want to label anybody, but different direction, and it just wasn't in line with what he wanted. And yeah, uh,
yeah.
on the guy side, is it pretty aside from the menopause aspect, obviously, is it pretty similar in terms of guys looking for their confidence in midlife?
I think that they are. I don't really, men are not my bailiwick, so to speak, but they do go through this whole change again because guys experience the same thing. The belly begins to expand. You can be skinny looking the rest of your body, but this belly appears.
Hey,
And
don't judge me. Don't judge me.
I'm not saying anything because that's one of my areas I struggle with, and that's where most people struggle with it. And, I laugh at my husband because he's so like you, all of his life athletic, he jogged. Then his knees gave out with different injuries, and so he was no longer able to jog, and it took him a while to find his comfort zone again. So you have to remember that you change, but you've got to have that mind shift and that lifestyle shift to accommodate. So men begin to feel the same thing. They don't have the confidence, they don't like the way they look, they don't like the way they feel. And a lot of men go off the rails. I mean, you do hear from men about, oh, he's just having a midlife crisis. Well, I guess you could call it a crisis, but it really is part of nature, and it's a natural part of the whole way that we were built and created. But people don't want to look at it like that. They just want to think things have changed. I don't like it, because everything in our society is a quick fix. We want to find a quick fix for it. And I'm here to tell you there are no quick fixes.
Hmm.
We might want that, but so many people have wandered down paths of, well, if I do this and if I do that, it's going to change everything. But it all starts in the mind, shifting the mind into the mindset of, okay, so I'm changing. So let me deal with what the changes are, and let me begin to love myself for who I am.
Yep.
And don't chase after all of those shimmery, shiny objects that are out there, because if you get down to the basics and go back to the basics, and remember that it doesn't happen as quickly, you're a lot better off. And remember that as we age, our metabolism changes. So we have to do what we can through food and through different healthy lifestyle changes, doing different things to boost that metabolism again, to get it going and revving it up, because it does slow down.
And everything is relative too. A lot of us may, look at that a little extra padding around here, and in our minds, oh my God, I gained weight, I'm fat, and to somebody else is like, yeah, that's you're making it, something out of really nothing, but it's up in here. You have to feel that
Mm-hmm,
confidence,
mm-hmm,
and
absolutely.
maybe you may have that same belly fat, at when you hit 50, whatever it may be. But if you change your lifestyle and you work out a little bit and you feel better, could look the same. Could look the same. Maybe lost a pound or two, but you feel different.
Yes, yes. I know for me, my stomach is one of the hardest places to lose weight.
Sure.
And I also know that if I'm just trying to eat healthy, but I'm not exercising, it really doesn't get me anywhere. Now, I could go on any fad diet I wanted to when I was younger, because I was a professional yo-yo dieter.
I've never heard that before. That's great.
I tried everything, and I could lose the weight, and I would lose the weight, but it was always first showing up in my belly. So I had this horrible picture of myself. I have to tell you that But one time when I was losing weight, I was down to 98 pounds. I became anorexic, and I would still look in the mirror and think I was fat.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole mindset is. And as we age, we've got to recognize the fact that we are going to change, and we've got to learn how we can love our body just the way it is now. If you're getting on the obese side and you've got health issues with it, that's a whole other thing. I'm not
Sure.
saying put on the weight and just think, oh, what the heck. No, you need to take care of your body now more than ever. You need to take care of your body and your health.
Absolutely. And it could be deep-seated things too. Like I was a big kid. I got bullied all the time. So in my mind, when I look at myself, I appear to myself as heavier. And others will say, "Are you kidding? But eat a cheeseburger." You know, everybody has a different perception.
Yeah, they do. They do.
As a health and wellness coach, centering on wellness, because we kind of went down that road for a second here. What kind of things do you help people with?
Oh, I help them with so many things, which is why I try to say I help people in midlife, because
Mm,
I help people with weight loss. I've been very successful in that area. I help people with migraines because I've suffered with them
mm,
since I had my first child. Um, People that find themselves really fatigued and they just don't feel well, I can help them with that. You've got people that have sleep issues, that I've helped. People, mostly the people I help are in their 40s and 50s. I've worked with a few younger people, but they are very different, and I'm much more comfortable in that midlife range. But a lot of people, when they become this age, they really don't feel well. They don't understand why, or maybe they get high cholesterol, or they're starting with diabetes or high blood pressure, and I can help with that. It's all very basic in the simple steps of a healthy lifestyle. So whether it's hormone balancing, whether it's weight loss, whether it's energy, it really all comes down to the basics of living a healthy lifestyle, which include things like your sleep, your emotional health, your physical health, really spiritual health, your relationship health. I mean, a health coach kind of takes on the role of a life coach many times, and mindset is a huge one, and time management is a huge one. And then I teach people, because I'm also a wellness cooking instructor, so I can help them with the meal planning and the meal prep, and how to cook a healthy meal without being in the kitchen for hours. Because even though I'm a wellness cooking instructor, I don't like to cook. I like it quick and simple. So I'm a quick and simple girl. Let's get it done so that we can get it on the table and out of there as quickly as possible, but still have healthy options.
A lot of what you're saying, you just said it too, that they're simple steps that you need to
Mhm.
take. But would you say the big difference is working with somebody like you, that it's accountability?
It is accountability, and I'm a huge proponent of accountability. As a health coach, I also have a health coach. Um, Especially since COVID, I put on some weight and didn't like it, and tried, because I know what to do, and it wasn't working. So I got my own health coach. I work well with accountability, and I would say probably 80% of the population does better with accountability. It's always good to have checks and balances, because if we're doing it on our own and going our own way, sometimes then it doesn't work, and you get very frustrated and you
Mm.
just give up.
Yep. And that's where that'll be me in 2 days. You have the best intentions, and let's face it, as you get older, it's like, yeah, you know what? I deserve that. So I'm going to eat that. But all you're doing is just going back, to your old ways, and you're not moving forward in terms of making yourself
Mhm.
healthy. And it's almost like a double-edged sword because you feel like you've worked for where you are in your life. So yeah, I'm going to eat that. I'm going to do that today. It'll be different tomorrow. But your health is different now, and you need to pay more attention because of all the things you just said, the health issues that pop up when you get older. So it's like the yin and the yang. Like you want to treat yourself, but you got to be careful at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Our health, unfortunately, with genetics, there are things that we can do to improve it. But so like my migraines, I thought by now they would have gone away. That was wishful thinking because living in Florida, barometric changes, it hasn't gone away. So it's the same with my weight. I could do what you're saying, and I could think, well, what difference does it make? Because why shouldn't I enjoy it? Why shouldn't I? Now I'm this age, I can enjoy the fruits of my labor, but we're dealing with health issues that we weren't dealing with when
Right.
we were younger. And I don't know about you, but to me, longevity is very important. And how are you going to get there? And I think about both my mom and my grandmother were well into their 90s before they passed away. And I want to be like that, but I don't want to be a 90-year-old when I can't get around. People have to help me get around. I want to be an active person
Yep.
and a healthy person at that age.
And if you're, cracking the 50 mark there, now's the time to start working on that. Or
Absolutely.
come up with that plan. Lynn, when people reach out to you, what's your website, by the way?
It's holistic-health and wellness, all spelt out.com.
When somebody connects with you through your website, do you have a free discovery call so they can see
I
if it's the right
do.
fit? Yeah.
I do. If they do the contact me and they fill it out, I'll contact them and schedule it with them. And there are a couple of free offers on my website as well that they can find.
Yeah, it comes down to one thing, lifestyle changes.
Yes.
If you're going through changes, if you're in the age range that we talked about, but it's lifestyle changes you have to make to accommodate those changes. It's you can't keep going this way when your body's going this way, And I guess the great example is like, let's say you were in your 20s or 30s and you went out for a night of partying and it was all great and it takes me a day, I'll bounce back. Now it takes you like 4.
Yeah, my family and I were talking about that the other day because, my husband and I were in our 20s. We were party goers. That was what we did.
Sure.
And the thing is that, of course, because of my migraines, I stopped drinking, and then I started again with a glass of wine every once in a while. And I would have a glass of wine, and the next day I feel like I have no energy. I have no get up and go.
Mhm.
And it's really very interesting the way that you hold your liquor. And it's the same with your food,
Yep.
the way that you hold your food as you get older.
It is so true. And I found even now, I just had a friends reunion with a bunch of guys. We all grew up together. We got together. And I find that, back then you just could have a bunch of beers and be okay. Now I'm like, all right, 2, I'm up to the third one. Everything's right. All of a sudden, what just happened there? But you got to be I guess it's just be mindful of your body and listen to what it's
Yes.
saying
Yes.
and get a holistic health and wellness coach. If you really want to preserve your life and reach for that longevity, holistic-health-and-wellness.com, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Reach out to Lynn. Lynn, great having you on today.
Thanks. It's been great to be here.
And
It's
I
one
tell
of,
you,
one of my favorite topics. So,
I'm glad we went down that road because I've never discussed that in a podcast and hardly ever discuss it with friends. Because if they're going through a midlife situation, they won't admit to it.
true.
And that's the
True.
other part. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a part of life. But I'm glad we kind of peeled back the layers and talked about it today.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right,
Thanks.
we'll catch up soon. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.